There's a lot of comfort in knowing that someone loves you just the way you are. Dolly Parton just broke down in tears in front of millions of people live on TV. The country music legend, known for her unbreakable spirit and endless charm, was caught off guard, and the world saw a side of her they never expected. Dolly lost it. The unbreakable, unstoppable icon was completely caught off guard, and what happened next left fans in shock. Was it a devastating personal loss? What made America's sweetheart cry? Stay tuned. Once you hear what happened behind the scenes, you'll understand why everyone is still talking about it. When you hear the name Dolly Parton, what comes to mind? Maybe her big blonde hair, rhinestone-studded dresses, and unmistakable voice that has been the soundtrack to generations. Or maybe it's her quick wit, her larger-than-life personality, and her heart of pure gold that has been known for decades. Does more than just sing country music. She's also been a cultural icon, a trailblazer, and a woman who built an empire with talent, charm, and sheer determination. She's given the world unforgettable songs, starred in hit movies, built an entire theme park, which is also very iconic, and given away millions of dollars to help people in need. But one thing about Dolly that has never changed: she's always been strong. No matter what life throws at her, she faces it with a smile, a joke, and an attitude. That's why everyone was shocked when she broke down in tears on live TV. Dolly doesn't cry in public. Of course, she's been through pain, heartbreak, and some heartbreaking tragedies, but she's always found a way to turn her struggles into strength. So when she lost it in front of everyone, it was clear that whatever had happened was something very personal, very emotional, and very overwhelming. To really understand why that moment was so important, we need to look back at who Dolly Parton is, where she came from, and why she has never let the world see her cry like this before. Dolly's journey to the top. Dolly wasn't born into fame and fortune. She grew up in a tiny cabin in the mountains of Tennessee as one of 12 kids in a family that barely had enough food to eat. She's always joked about how poor they were, saying that they didn't have running water, but they did have lots of running noses. She once said, "We always joked that we didn't even know we were poor until some smart aleck told us we didn't have any money, but we were rich in things that money can't buy, like love, kindness, and understanding." Dolly's family didn't have much, but they did have music, and she knew from a young age that she was meant for something bigger. She started singing in church and writing songs on a little guitar. She was dreaming of a life beyond the Smoky Mountains, and when she finally got the chance, you better believe she jumped at it with both hands. When she was only 13, Dolly performed at the Grand Ole Opry, soaking up the applause and knowing deep down that this was just the start. It was at that performance that she met the legendary Johnny Cash for the first time, and he told her to go with her gut about her career, which she did. She moved to Nashville. It wasn't long before everyone knew her name. At first, she was known as the pretty blonde girlfriend of country star Porter Wagoner, but Dolly was never meant to be anyone's girlfriend. She eventually broke out on her own, and after that, she had hit after hit, including Jolene and 9 to 5. Her songs weren't just catchy, they told real, raw, emotional stories that people could really relate to. And she wasn't limited to just country. Music Dolly turned into a Hollywood star and lit up the big screen in after movies like 9 to 5 and Steel Magnolias. She built an empire, started Dollywood, and became one of the most powerful women in entertainment. But she never lost the charm, kindness, and quick wit that made people fall in love with her in the first place. That's what made her different from so many other celebrities. She never forgot where she came from, and she never let fame change her. Although Dolly is one of the biggest stars in the world, she still acts like she's just stepped off the front porch of her Tennessee cabin. She makes fun of herself, calls people honey and darling, and definitely gives more than she takes. Dolly has spent millions of dollars to help kids learn to read, fund medical research, and support the communities that raised her. She's not the type to just give money to a cause. She gets involved. She's helped build hospitals, rebuild homes, and even she has raised money for a COVID vaccine, and has always had that same Dolly energy, funny, flirty, and fearless. She has had a lot of personal problems, but she never lets the world see her sweat. She smiles through the pain, lifts others up, and never lets life bring her down. That's why when she broke down in tears on live TV, everyone knew something really powerful was happening, and you'll understand why when you hear her story. As of now, the whole world is still talking about Dolly Parton's heartbreaking loss. Her beloved husband of nearly 60 years, Carl Dean, died, leaving her completely broken. Let's be honest, celebrity marriages rarely last longer than 5 years, let alone 60 years. But Dolly and Carl were very different. It all began in 1964 when Dolly, then 18, moved to Nashville with big eyes and ready to take on the world. But fate had more in store for her than just Hollywood fame. She was waiting outside a laundromat when Carl Dean, who was 21 at the time, drove by in his white Chevy pickup. Carl called out to her, "You're going to get sunburn out here, little lady," and that was the spark that set off a fire that never went out. Dolly later said that she didn't jump into his car right away for safety reasons, but she did ask him to come over to her aunt and uncle's house the next day, which he accepted. Even though she only sat with him outside for a week, Dean came back to see her every day, and when he finally took her on a date, he drove her to his parents' house first because, according to Dolly, Dean knew from the moment he saw her that she was the one he wanted. Carl loved Dolly. Even though she was a wannabe star, he wasn't interested in the glitz and glam of Hollywood. He was interested in her, and that's what swept her off her feet. 2 years later, they got married. In a small, private ceremony with only her mom as a witness, Carl made it clear that he had no desire for fame whatsoever. While Dolly became a worldwide superstar, Carl stayed out of the spotlight, running his paving business and living a quiet, simple life. In fact, Carl was clearly uncomfortable when Dolly took him to one of the biggest events in the industry, an awards banquet in 1966, where she was being honored for writing "Put It Off Until Tomorrow." He began taking off his tuxedo before they even got to the car and told her, "I'm happy for you. I want you to do what you want to do, but don't ever ask me to go to another one of these things because I'm not going. Don't get it twisted." This didn't mean he didn't support her career. He loved Dolly and her career. He just liked to love her from the sidelines and enjoy their privacy. She once said, "We just enjoy each other. One of the things that we like to do. Not, of course, we have a lot of date days because we have our little ones. We like to travel and eat out, or I'll pack a picnic and we'll go to the river." Carl was never in the spotlight, but he did have sweet, sneaky ways of showing his love for Dolly. For example, he loved Dollywood so much that he'd sneak into the park, buy his own ticket, and blend in with the crowd. He didn't want to be treated differently because he was gay. Carl was married to Dolly Parton and knew how to keep it real and humble. While Dolly was out there shaking things up in the world, Carl was her quiet rock, always there behind the scenes, never wanting the spotlight. Dolly would often talk about how their personalities balanced each other. She was the star, and he was the private, grounded man who kept everything together. Unfortunately, things took a heartbreaking turn behind the scenes when Carl started struggling with Alzheimer's disease, a cruel disease that slowly killed him. Imagine being married to someone for 60 years, and one day, they don't even know who you are. That's what Dolly had to deal with, and even though she never let anyone see her pain, people who knew her say that seeing Carl fade away was unbearably painful for her. On March 3, 2025, Carl Dean took his last breath, leaving Dolly completely crushed. In a post on her ex-husband's account, Dolly said, "Carl and I spent many wonderful years together. Words can't describe how much we loved each other for over 60 years. Thank you for your prayers and condolences. He is now in God's arms, and I'm okay with that." As soon as the news of Carl's death spread, people sent their condolences. Reba McEntire, Carrie Underwood, Blake Shelton, and even Oprah said it was one of the greatest love stories of all time. The Grand Ole Opry even performed "I Will Always Love You" in his honor, which had the whole crowd was crying because, let's be honest, this Hollywood marriage was a real once-in-a-lifetime love story. But here's what shocked everyone. Dolly recently told us something we didn't expect, and it's that she's been hurting so much. Dolly has been through a lot in her life. She's lost family members, been hurt emotionally, and been married. Scandals. But she never let the world see her break down until now. At the start of Dollywood's season, Dolly surprised her fans by taking the stage, even though she had just lost her husband. It was clear she wasn't herself right away. Her voice was shaking and her eyes were filled with tears. She said, "I need to laugh. I need some fun. I've been crying enough the last week or two." She then talked about how much she missed him, saying, "I've been with fans. We're shocked to see Dolly Parton so emotional in public. This was something no one had ever seen before." But it didn't stop there. In other interviews after Carl's death, Dolly told the world about her grief, saying, "It's a hole in my heart, but we'll fill that up with good stuff and he'll always be with me." And her words were completely honest. And if there's one song that will always be associated with Dolly and Carl's love story, it's "I Will Always Love You." Dolly actually wrote the song about leaving her longtime business partner, Porter Wagner, but over the years, fans have linked it to Carl, and now Dolly does too. After Carl died, she dedicated the song to him, and let's just say there weren't any dry eyes in the house. As Dolly continues to navigate life without Carl, she's leaning on, honestly, if anyone can turn this pain into something beautiful, it's Dolly. Her strength, honesty, and unwavering love for Carl are all the inspiration we need. But do you know what else? Dolly Parton has also made someone cry on live TV. It was Stephen Colbert, the famous host of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. If you didn't see it, you missed one of the most moving and honest moments on The Late Show. Late Dolly Parton was about to get stopborn, Dolly as the bright, bubbly star who never misses a beat. But this moment was real and deeply personal for both Colbert and Dolly. So what made Dolly cry? It wasn't a joke or a silly story. It was her feelings coming out because she had lost someone very important to her. She was remembering the death of her mother. It was October 2020 when Dolly appeared on The Late Show, and during their usual banter, Stephen asked her about her mother's influence on her. The question seemed pretty normal, but what happened next was anything but normal. Dolly, with her usual warmth and grace, talked about her mom, A.V. Lee, and how much of an effect she had on her career and on her life. Dolly was asked to name the 3 songs she was most proud of writing, and she did. She then talked about one of her favorite songs she had ever written, Coat of Many Colors, which was based on a true story about how her mother sewn together a coat of many colors. Inspired by Joseph in the Bible and his coat of many colors, she made a coat for her out of rags. In the same interview, she talked about how she grew up in Tennessee and how her mother used to sing all the time. She said, "Mama used to sing all those old songs brought over from the old world. Mama was a good singer and she would sing a cappella all the time." Many of those songs were sad and some were just pitiful. Then Dolly did something we weren't expecting. She started singing. And I'm not talking about a little tune. Dolly performed the touching folk song Burn Me Beneath the Willow, which has been a part of her life and music for years. But as soon as she started singing, the words hit her in a way we didn't expect. You could tell that the pain of losing her mother was still very fresh in her heart, even after all these years. And Stephen Colbert was a mess. He could barely keep it together, his eyes filled with tears, and everyone was shocked as he took off his glasses and wiped them away. Dolly's song and emotion hit him right in the feels, making the tough, funny guy who's always ready with a joke the most vulnerable person in the room. She had to ask him if he was crying, and then tell him to shut up or we'll have to end the show. What a beautiful response from Colbert. Like a lot of Americans right now, I'm under a lot of stress. If you're wondering why that was so powerful, it has to do with Dolly's relationship with her mother, Dolly Parton, and how much it meant to her. It's no secret that Dolly is a mama's girl through and through. Lee, Dolly's mother, was not only a parent to her, but also a mentor, a guide, and the person who made Dolly into the strong, warm, and caring woman we know today. Dolly has always said that her mother was her biggest inspiration, both as a religious woman and as a mother who taught her the values of kindness and hard work. The bond between them was unbreakable. Dolly grew up in the mountains of Tennessee in a poor family, but her mother made sure that she and her siblings always knew love and hope. Did you know that Avi Lee fostered Dolly's love for music and encouraged her to dream big even when it seemed impossible? She told People magazine that "I grew up in a musical family. All of my mom's relatives were musical, so I was always around people playing instruments and singing. My mom would sing old songs, so it was just something I did because I loved it." That close bond between Dolly and her mother was a big part of her success, so it's not surprising that when she made that memorable appearance on The Late Show in October 2020, she let down her guard in a way that none of us expected. It was clear that that song wasn't just a performance, it was an ode to her mom and a way for Dolly to turn all of her love, grief, and longing into something beautiful, which is exactly what she did. We've seen Dolly sing and perform millions of times, but this was the first time we really understood what she was singing about. Because she wasn't an entertainer, a celebrity, or the queen of country music, she was just a daughter missing her mother. It wasn't just another show. That's what made it so powerful. When she sang, you could hear the crack in her voice that showed how much she still hurt from the loss. And when Colbert, who is usually funny and upbeat, got teary-eyed, it hit all of us. But this isn't the first time Dolly Parton has talked about the loss in public. Besides losing her husband and mother, Dolly also lost one of her siblings a few years ago, which shook her to her core. Dolly has said many times that her family is the most important thing in her life. She grew up in a small cabin in Tennessee with 11 brothers and sisters, and despite her fame, she's always kept them close. But over the years, she's had to say goodbye to several of them, and each loss has been devastating. On December 6, 2018, Dolly's brother Floyd Parton died. Floyd died at the age of 61. If you don't know who Floyd was, let's just say he wasn't just her brother, he was her songwriting soulmate. Floyd wasn't as well known as Dolly, but he was a major force behind the scenes in country music. He wrote songs, played instruments, and was one of the few people Dolly actually trusted completely when it came to music. One of Floyd's biggest contributions was the hit song Rockin' Years, which Dolly recorded with Ricky Van Shelton in 1991. Floyd was Dolly's baby brother, and the two were so close that it's safe to call him her twin in spirit, even though they weren't biological twins. They understood each other in a way that only siblings who grew up poor could, so when Floyd died, it broke Dolly's heart. The Parton family kept the funeral pretty quiet at first, but Dolly later said that they honored Floyd with a beautiful memorial service full of music and love, just the way he would have wanted. It was even harder to lose Randy Parton than Floyd. On January 21, 2021, Dolly lost another brother to cancer. This wasn't just any brother. Randy was a big part of Dolly's career. Unlike Floyd, who liked to stay out of the spotlight, Randy was right there with Dolly for many years. Randy was a talented singer and musician, so he often performed with his sister on stage and even recorded songs of his own. One of the most touching moments was when Randy and Dolly, You Are My Christmas, was a duet that Dolly and Ry recorded together and was released on Dolly's Christmas album in 2020. It was one of Ry's last recordings before he died. Dolly released an emotional statement about his death, saying, "My brother Randy has lost his battle with cancer. The family and I are grieving his loss, but we know he is in a better place than we are at this time. We are a religious family, and we believe that he is safe with God and that he is joined by members of the family who have gone on before and have joined him." David was the latest in a long line of devastating losses for Dolly. She had to say goodbye to another close family member, her brother David. Dolly hasn't said much about David's death yet, but you can bet that it hurts just as much as the others. At this point, you have to wonder how she keeps going. Most people would give up in the face of so much grief, but Dolly keeps going. Dolly Parton sings, smiles, and helps others, even though she's been through the heartbreak of losing some of the people she loved most. But that's Dolly for you. She turns pain into music, heartbreak into strength, and loss into a legacy. And speaking of legacy, Dolly Parton's legacy is untouchable in the entertainment industry. She wrote over 3,000 songs, sold over 100 million records, and won more awards than she probably keeps track of. What's even better is that she did all of this without following the rules. In the 1960s and 1970s, country music was a boy club and women were supposed to sing sweet little love songs in the background. But Dolly came in with big hair, big talent, and no plans to stay quiet. She fought to write her own songs, control her own career, and make music her way. And guess what? She won. To this day, everyone from Beyoncé to Miley Cyrus has covered Jolene. Dolly is still getting paid royalties from Whitney Houston's hit song, I Will Always Love You. And here's the kicker. While other artists struggle to stay relevant, Dolly is still breaking records at almost 80 years old. She was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and released a rock album with legends like Paul McCartney and Stevie Nicks. She's still touring and recording like she's got something to prove, and she does it. Dolly isn't just a superstar, she's also a business queen. This woman could teach a class on how to get rich and stay rich. For starters, she owns her music. While many artists sell their songs for quick cash, Dolly kept hers, so every time I Will Always Love You is played anywhere in the world, she gets paid. Then there's Dollywood. In the 1980s, when most celebrities were wasting their money on bad investments, Dolly decided to open a People in her hometown. We're hesitant at first about the idea of naming an amusement park after her, but now Dollywood is one of the most popular tourist destinations in the United States. Millions of people visit every year, and the park keeps growing by adding resorts, hotels, dinner theaters, and more. It's safe to say that this isn't just a theme park, it's a money machine. But let's talk about what really makes Dolly unique, her heart. Rich celebrities have been known to hoard hearts. They show off their money or use charity to get attention, but Dolly doesn't do either. She's been giving back quietly for decades. The Imagination Library is the best example. In 1995, Dolly started a program to give free books to kids all over the world, including those in Tennessee. Since then, over 200 million books have been donated. There's also her disaster relief work. When wildfires hit Tennessee, Dolly helped families who lost their homes by giving them money. While billionaires were busy getting richer, Dolly donated money to help fund research that led to the Madna vaccine. And here's the best part. She never brags about it. She just does the work and keeps things going. Have you ever noticed that Dolly is one of the few celebrities whose show has never been canceled? In a world where people are quick to criticize their favorites, Dolly stays out of trouble, never insults anyone, and always finds a way to bring people together when everything else and no one dislikes Dolly Parton. Republicans love her, Democrats love her, young people, old people, you name it. Because she has one simple rule: be kind, work hard, and never take yourself too seriously. After over 60 years in the business, Dolly Parton is still on top. She's still making music, running an empire, giving millions to people who need it, and proving why her legacy will last forever. What's your favorite song of hers? Dolly Parton's song. Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to click on the next video, like this video, and subscribe to our channel to get more videos like this.